I see some other options in StreamYard. It's pretty it's interesting.
Oh, I try to ignore that whenever possible because it's too confusing for me.
Well, they got scenes, which is interesting. So I guess you can like
And scene.
something. Yeah, in scene.
Okay, and let's see, I gotta get the show notes here. Oh, let's see, let's switch this around. I'm gonna put this goes here, that goes there.
I think I've got everything on my side ready. I don't have. Sorry, I don't have my mixer to do the audio. So we'll
That's
just have
okay.
to. We'll just do it with our mouths.
It's doing the full orchestra theme song. That's the hard part.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, right.
You just gotta make sure you don't stray into copyright territory there.
No, I totally made that up just a second ago. Oh, we got one viewer. I think I know who.
Yes, I think it's listener Diane there.
That's right.
Okay, I'll make that up as I go. All right. So aside from that and some shaky writing here on these news stories, I think we're set to go.
All right.
So let's see. So you're recording on your end though?
No, actually, I'll get it from StreamYard
Okay. All right.
tomorrow. That's a big coffee mug you got there.
It's a Star Trek mug. See?
Oh, I see it now. Yeah, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. I like that one.
And that's it's chamomile tea this evening that we're having because I already had the coffee for the day, so we're taking it down a notch.
Take it. Yeah. Let the half-life of your caffeine intake break down.
Yeah. No, that's like 50 years for me, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
All right. So we're just going to intro the show, and if you want to put some music in someplace tomorrow when you're working on it or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, we can totally edit some stuff in. That's not a problem.
Okay. Let's see. All right, let's go with it. I'll give myself a count in. How about that?
All right.
In 5, 4, 3. This is The Topic is Trek, episode 178 for Friday, May 7th, 2025. Coming up in this episode, strange new worlds news, but not the kind you were expecting. Hey, we've got a radio play on the way. And we talk about another Star Trek book we hope you'll enjoy. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Episode title goes here, and it is Assassin's Read.
Nice. Wow. Got some statues reading in there.
Yes. A little Paramount logo action going in the background here.
Looks like Paramount and Disney Plus.
Ooh, well, someday, who knows? This I may be foretelling the future. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another thrill-packed edition of The Topic is Trek. I'm Clinton, one of your co-hosts, and as I think you've already surmised, I have a co-host with me. But this week, something's different. We're missing a co-host. But first, let me introduce the co-host that is here, beaming in from parts unknown. Even though he's already here, it's very weird, is Mr. Craig Stepp.
Shiver me timbers.
Oh, that's your hip new catchphrase, shiver me timbers?
Well, we were on a ship last week, so
that's true. Did you shiver any timbers while you were there?
I'm not sure what a timber is.
Isn't it the deck? I don't know.
Maybe
sails, the buffet table. I don't know. One of those.
Something
things.
was shivering, all right.
Yeah.
Chuck, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the weather probably didn't have you shivering, though. Although I don't know. Maybe it was cold. I don't know.
No, actually, it was nice. I was just telling my wife that it was funny. You know, what, a week or so ago, we were wearing shorts and T-shirts all week, and now I'm come home and I'm like, got to wear hoodies and coats. So. But yeah, Chuck is on assignment, still on the ship.
He's still on the ship. He forgot to get off in time.
Yeah, he slept in that day, and they went off back to sea.
Yeah, see,
So he
that
was
was
on the. I'm sorry, I was going to say he was on the Star Trek cruise, and we'll talk about that at another time. But then they stayed on to do the '80s cruise, which is right after that. So it's funny because they a couple of friends and then Chuck and Donna have internet, so I feel like we're kind of doing the cruise with them because I'm getting all the play-by-plays. It's kind of funny.
Hey, here's that 80s band you all remember from that one thing that they did. Yeah, there they are.
Yeah. So yeah, they were texting during the Sheila E. concert the other night, and I was like, okay, yeah,
Isn't that kind of rude? I mean, what is she gonna think?
I think it was right after it, actually, to be honest with you. They were like, oh, it was a great show. She really brought it together or whatever.
It's not the glamorous life being texting during her show. It's just not.
I know.
Ooh, 80s reference right there. Okay, well, we're going to do Subspace Chatter, and then we're going to talk about a Star Trek book. But first, before we do Subspace Chatter, usually we ask Charlie if it's okay, but since we're running kind of low tech this evening, random chance. You got anything that you can throw as a one or a two there, Craig, to see who we get? Any kind of randomizer, or just do it?
Shiver me, space chatter. It's not space chatter.
That's a one or a two. All right. Well, we're going to go with, just because it's going to be a tough enough week as it is. We're going with Mirror Charlie. You know, he's the good guy, and he's going to say, it's okay. It's okay. You go ahead. I'm really thrilled about doing Subspace Chatter. So why don't you get right to it?
Right.
And Craig, you have the first story, actually.
All right. So, well, we still don't know when we'll see season 3 of Strange New Worlds, but that isn't stopping the cast and crew from moving ahead on season 4. Filming began on Monday, March 3rd, and was announced with an image of Ethan Peck, Celia Rose Gooding, and I never said that right. Celia Rose Gooding and Anson Mount in costume on the bridge of the Enterprise. Gooding is sporting a new, longer hairstyle. It's got a mullet now. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Moving to the Uhura character closer to played by Nichelle Nichols on the original series. She has a longer hairstyle. Actually, it was funny because she was on the cruise. No, was she on the? Yeah, she was on the cruise, and somebody was like, "Look, her hair's longer." And then, of course, they started filming right away. So
before you could have the scoop on that everybody got the picture saying, "Yeah, we all know that already." Yeah,
that's right. And no, we're not even going to try and guess when season 4 will premiere. No, I won't say anything at last until the next prediction episode, which will be the end of the year.
That's right.
Beginning of the year.
And if season 3 hasn't come out by the end of the year, you know, and if we don't have some clue then how season 4 is going to work, then we're in trouble.
I know. I hope it's not one of those things where, and it won't be, you know, where you go, oh, this movie's coming out. Oh, they shelved it.
No, I don't think that's going to happen with this. I don't think so. But you know what? We've got something that's even better than getting a date for season 3 of Strange New Worlds. That's right.
What?
Yeah, we've got promotional posters for season 3 of Strange New Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're kind of in denial about this whole thing. Anyway, the 12 posters feature individual portraits of prominent main and recurring cast of characters here. Each face is accented with superimposed images that evoke space. The set includes Pike, number 1, Spock, Uhura, Chapel, Ortegas, La'an, Mbenga, Scotty's in the mix now, Captain Batel, so spoiler alert, I guess she doesn't die, Jim Kirk, and Pelia. We'll have a link to the posters over at our website. Just go to the show notes for episode 178, Assassin's Read, over on the topic is trekding.com. Yeah. That's a low-tech ding. Yeah, so all these posters look good to me, except I don't know this. I think it's just the way the lighting that this effect is on her face, but Chapel's face just looks weird in it. It looks like it's flattened out somehow
Yeah,
from and again, I think it's just an optical illusion from the way they have the things playing on her face there. It's kind of a sharp line, sharp delineation line
I
there.
think I think it just might be that little lighting kind of throwing stuff off. But yeah, you're right. It looks like they got something from space projected on their heads.
Yes. And it, they should have a spacesuit on if they're out there doing that sort of thing. But that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, by the way, on the cruise, I did see uh, Melissa Navia. She was running on that track
mhm.
at the top of the ship, and I was walking out. She ran by me and went, "Is that who I think it was?" But she was dressed in black. She's running, and she had black sunglasses on, and I'm like, "I think that is her." So I just kind of waved, and whoever it was waved back.
Well,
But you know,
you made a new friend one way or the other. Look at that. Look at it that way.
I tried to trip her so I could at least talk to her for a minute, but
No.
no, that
Unless
wouldn't
you want
work.
to talk to her like in sick bay or something like that. It's
Right. No,
all right.
it was real cool. Oh
Well,
yeah, and by the way, your post there's Scotty,
mhm.
um, and Kirk, of course, we see him again. So this is cool.
So no
You
no
know,
clue whether or not we'll have another cast member, not well, another cast member, but another TOS person kind of slip in during season 3, obviously at this point. So,
I have a feeling we'll probably see one an introduction, probably towards the end of this season 3. I bet.
and I was thinking about that it would seem that the next logical person you would have, even though you've already have Uhura there, would be Sulu, because if you
Hmm.
look at where No Man has gone before, the second pilot, Sulu was there as well as Scotty. So I don't know if if there's really any particular order that they should come in, but it just
Hmm.
feels like, maybe that should be, happening next. Of course, we got to get, I don't know, we've got what, 2 doctors in between Mbenga and McCoy
Hmm.
from the 2 pilots. And I don't know if they're going to go to that extent of, oh, look, here's the doctor of the week. Okay, they're gone. Here's another doctor of the week. And
Yeah, burned through a couple of them. Yeah. Hey, I wonder, which also begs the question. I'm sure at the end of Strange New Worlds, we got to be lining up pretty close to TOS. Uh, you think we'll see a McCoy at some point?
I would think so. And I think the thing that's going to be the puzzle is, okay, what happens to Mbenga? Because Mbenga is back in the original series. So it's not like he leaves the ship and doesn't come back. Clearly he's back again.
Hmm.
So what is the dynamic there? How does this whole thing happen? Does he go away as chief medical officer and come back as second? I mean, I don't. So I think that's the thing I'll be interested to see if they get to that point where I feel like they're driving towards this point of slowly integrating everything in here. How about Lieutenant Riley is from Gary Lindros here? Well,
Oh, sorry.
he'll be singing someplace. I'll take you home again, Kathleen, and they don't have the rights to that, so they're gonna say, no, we can't have you on. We just can't do it. Yeah, and you've got a bunch of people there.
We're battling out for
We're
trying.
both trying to put it on and take it off the stage at the same time.
Hey, wait a minute, what about Lieutenant Kyle?
Uh, yeah, I mean, he's definitely around. We've even seen him we saw him in Star Trek 2 as well. So he's there for the long haul.
Oh, wait, wait, we did see him. He was running the transporter.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right.
That's right.
He-
So yeah.
He's already hanging out.
So we are slowly filling these people in. It's kind of weird though, because it's almost like this replacement thing is like, okay, remove this part and put this part in its place. So you
Mhm.
build the new ship from the old,
Yeah,
replace all the pieces in it.
that's right. All
All
right.
right, you got some big news coming up next, Craig. What do you got?
Yeah, this is kind of a surprise, I think. Nicholas Meyer's scripted audio series, Star Trek Con, has officially wrapped recording. Former Lost cast member Naveen Andrews will voice Khan Noonien Singh, and a star of the Apple TV series For All Mankind will For All Mankind. Ren Schmidt will play Marla McGivers, a former Starfleet lieutenant who followed Khan into exile and became his wife. So, a summary of the Star Trek Khan series reads: History remembers Khan Noonien Singh as a villain, the product of a failed attempt to perfect humanity through genetic engineering, whose quest to avenge himself on Admiral James T. Kirk led to an unimaginable tragedy and loss. But the truth has been buried for too long beneath the sands of Ceti Alpha 5. Pause for dramatic.
This is Ceti Alpha 5. Yeah, we gotta have to do that then, right?
That's right. How did Khan go from the beneficent tyrant to superhuman visionary with a new world at his fingertips to a monster we think we know so well? Recently unearthed, the rest of Khan's story will finally be told in Star Trek Khan!
Yeah, they should spell with all those A's. It's just it's so much better.
Maybe a few H's too. We don't really have a release date on that. That seems like that's their shtick nowadays over Paramount. But we've been told that it will be available on all streaming platforms,
which is good. You know, it's not going to be some exclusive for somebody, which is
all streaming platforms. Are you talking like it's audio? So you're talking like YouTube and Spotify, that kind of thing?
It's so you'll be able to get it on pretty much any place you can get a podcast. Is what we're being told at this point. So we will see.
You know what's funny is, weren't we just talking about this not too long ago? Well, we haven't heard any news about that. They're going, hey, we wrapped. It's great.
Yeah, but we still don't have a release date for it. So
yeah.
I mean, well, talking about this year, I believe, but this year's it's only the beginning of March, so this year's got a long way to go. But we will find out more.
We've put out stuff a lot faster than this.
Yeah, I've put out like big stories that amount of time. So there, yeah. Nicholas, with your radio play. So there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm jesting. Or am I? Anyway, let's move on, shall we?
Probably not.
Okay. If the recent Otoy short Unification led you wanting more classic Kirk, you may get your wish. Speaking at Vancouver's Fan Expo, Shatner is quoted as having said, and I'm not going to do a Shatner voice for this, but I have been asked to come back as Kirk so many times. If Kirk is going to come back, it has to mean something. It has to be the show. But I was so impressed by this writer, so I said, let's talk after I'm done in Vancouver. So I'm awaiting a pitch to make it the show. It should come out. Should come on Monday or Tuesday.
The show. Hey,
he's really fast. No, it's take that, Nicholas Meyer. No,
in a departure from Paramount, he actually gave us a day, Monday or Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah, but that's just for the meeting. They give you all the dates for the meetings you want.
That's right.
There was no further indication what this production might be. Strange New Worlds, Starfleet Academy, the next Star Trek movie that seems to have gone missing. Who knows?
Well, I was thinking of when we talked about that during Unification, that they could. Even William Shatner was saying that they could continue on with these characters later on, because you had an actor underneath the digital prosthetic and physical prosthetics, and they went through a lot of trouble to make Unification. I was like, I would love to see something else, but I can't imagine they do that. They might be able to for 2 hours or an hour and a half for a movie. So maybe it is something smaller for a series or a short, maybe like a limited series or an episode, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, this whole idea of having a pitch meeting and it being all about, or, that Kirk is the focus of it, which is why it doesn't seem to be a fit for Strange New Worlds or Starfleet Academy. I mean, obviously Starfleet Academy would have to be a recording. Strange New Worlds, you have a Kirk already, and it's whether or not you have a meeting of the two Kirks, I don't know, something like that. But that's why my mind was gravitating towards these nebulous things about the next Star Trek movie. It's like, does somebody come up with a different idea, or is somebody doing the Origins of the Federation, that one that we're supposedly going to be getting as a series? Is it somehow tied in with that Kirk is a major figure in this thing? It seems it's too early for Kirk, but I don't know. I'm interested to find out. We didn't hear any, as far as I could tell, there was no follow-up on this. But if it's a pitch meeting and it's for a project that's not announced yet, I don't think we're going to hear anything on it, for the future.
Well, what was funny, I think I read the article where he was speaking, and it was a video or something. He mentioned, well, we got this and this, and we can make anything really happen. He's talking about in the Star Trek universe, like the Borg technology and stuff. And I went, yeah, didn't you have a ghostwrite written book about that?
Mm-hmm.
Where he was resurrected with the Borg technology, and there's a whole. I enjoyed the book, so I don't know who wrote it, but I really enjoyed it. But I read it a long time ago, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, maybe it'd be time to revisit that at some point, because
yeah,
might be very topical.
I think if they worked it over some, it could be a really good story to watch. I'd do.
Yeah,
that.
we're gonna work Kirk over. Yeah, we're gonna work.
No, I'm talking about the book I was reading.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Work it up. I think if I remember right, there was a few things that made you go, "Huh?" But for the most part, it was fun to revisit Kirk, and like the Borg resurrected him. I remember him going down into not a trash compactor, but Borg refuse. It was kind of disgusting the way they wrote it, but he gets out, and it's I don't know, it's fun. I might go back and revisit that book.
We got a comment here from Crazy Joe saying, I hope they're not doing that motion capture unification thing. That feels more like nostalgia for fan service and special effects than it feels like good storytelling. Well, it has its limitations as well. I mean, I think one of the reasons that you don't have Kirk or Spock saying anything is because that takes things to another level. And I'm not quite sure that they're there yet. So it would be kind of hard to use the technology like that and have the character interacting with other characters. It's like, oh, Kirk is suddenly a mime, I guess, and he's not saying anything. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I kind of felt like unification. I enjoyed the heck out of it, as I've probably said 1,000 times already on this podcast. But I think it was more of a proof of concept because they got to the point where they can make the characters look believable. And like you said, without going to the extreme of adding in voice. Well, they did add a little bit of Kirk's voice, but some pre-recorded stuff. But not talking with each other, interacting. I think that was more of a proof of concept.
Right.
And to really show off something with that little bit of a story or whatever we had in there.
And I think even that technology, it would be tough for an actor to do something with their talking because the actor whose name is escaping me at the moment,
Sam,
begins with a W, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Somebody, if
my mind went blank.
If you're in the chat, just type it in there, and we'll give you credit for it.
Whitworth.
There we go. The things they had to do with his face in order to make the correct expression would make it really hard to have dialogue with that, because you'd have to be I'm thinking about the dialogue. I'm thinking about how I have to, shape my face to give this emotion while I'm giving the dialogue. So I think we are, Crazy Joe came up with it as well. Thank you, Crazy Joe.
Yep.
So it's a ways to go on that. And I see where Crazy Joe is coming from, that you don't want it to be another fallback, another nostalgia piece. It should be something. Of course, the question is, all right, if Kirk is dead and Kirk is coming back, how would Kirk just be older now? If he was, he was dead. He aged while he was dead. What happened there? So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there in line to watch it.
Alrighty. And you're next in line for a story.
Oh, I was already ready till I wasn't. All right. As we all know, April 5th is First Contact Day, and this year it takes on a heroic new meaning. Ugh, words are difficult. That's because the annual live stream telethon to benefit the Hollywood Food Coalition, known as Trek Talks, will be held on First Contact Day. Once again this year, Star Trek Enterprise's John Billingsley and Star Trek's Prodigy's Bonnie Gordon will serve as co-hosts. Billingsley served as the co-chair. I was getting ready to say, as the doctor in.
No.
Billingsley serves as co-chair of the Hollywood Food Coalition, which established in 1987 serves hot, nutritious meals to people in the Los Angeles area 7 days a week. Last year, Trek Talks raised over $110,000. This year, Trek Talks 4 will feature dozens of legendary names from Star Trek joining the panels and discussions celebrating the inclusive and generous spirit of Star Trek. Among scheduled guests are Sonequa Martin Green, Jonathan Frakes, Kate Mulgrew, David Ajala, Wilson Cruz, Mary Chieffo, Celia Rose Gooding, Eugene Cordero, Don Lewis, and Mike McMahon, Robert Picardo, and more. So several behind-the-scenes creatives will also be part of the event, including Stephen Bear and Brandon Braga and Brian Fuller. I imagine that's what you meant.
Yep.
Say Brian Fuller, and Rod Roddenberry, and others. And you can watch the event live on YouTube on the Trek Talks channel.
So pretty cool. Yeah, they moved the date. I think because it's obviously a bit more of an urgent need for some relief in the Los Angeles area. So good thing.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would recommend that you go over and subscribe to the Trek Talks channel, and then tune in on on First Contact Day on April 5th to be part of that. All right. And finally, in our last episode, we talked about the new streaming movie event, Section 31, and we had mixed feelings about the final product. But as we know, everyone enjoys a slightly different flavor of Trek, and Section 31 may have fit perfectly into that recipe for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The Michelle Yeoh-led movie was number 8 on Nielsen's top 10 streaming chart for the week of January 20th through 26th. And keep in mind, the movie premiered halfway through that period, giving it only 3 days to make it onto the list. During that time, Section 31 racked up 170 million minutes of viewing time.
Wow.
So is it a success for them? I mean, we look at it, a lot of people look at it as, oh, that was just, it was a failure. It's not what I was looking for. It was right all along, or you liked it or you didn't like it for various reasons. I obviously watched it a couple of times for the show. But I think it resonated with a certain group of people, and it may bode better for more streaming movies than we might have first thought.
Well, I'm glad somebody enjoyed it. I don't want to say it quite like that, but I'm glad somebody enjoyed it. Another take on the Star Trek universe. I think it's good. I liked it better the second time I watched it because I think I was more familiar with things, and maybe that figures into some of that 170 million minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And Crazy Joe mentions that Section 31 is coming to Blu-ray and 4K disc. He's pre-ordered his copy already.
Yeah, but I also had to tell Crazy Joe it wasn't coming out in the theater, so he didn't have to stand in line. He was in there for a week. He was waiting a week outside when the rain.
Yeah, I think that's a bit excessive for him. Yeah. Don't know.
Yeah,
I think could have gotten a seat inside if you really wanted to. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that wraps up our news. However, we have 90 additional stories that we didn't get a
What?
chance to talk about. That's right, 90. It's while you away cruising, news happens.
Yeah. Yes, it
And
does.
so we have links to all those things over in the show notes for episode 178, Assassin's Read, over at the topicus.trek.com. Ding, 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 ding. And now, sadly, it's time to say goodbye to Mirror Charlie. He's so likable. I hate to do that, but Charlie, you and your questionable goatee. Yeah, I'm afraid it's time to say goodbye. So
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
bye
Bye.
bye.
Every time I see that goatee, I just makes me laugh.
He's doing the best he can.
He's like that teenager that can't grow a full beard.
Oh, he's still
Oh,
here.
boy.
He's listening. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Now it is time to go out on our main mission with an appropriate sound effect, although we have none. So you got anything, Craig, for an appropriate sound effect? I think that's Eric's here someplace. I don't know. All right. So I'll do the setup here. We're going to be talking about the Star Trek novel, Star Trek Shadow on the Sun, written by Michael Jan Friedman. I keep thinking of Jan Michael Vincent when I say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
The hardcover edition was first published. I've got a different date there. It was actually first published in August of 1993. And a short plot synopsis. This is from the back of the dust jacket. As a young doctor with a beautiful family and a promising medical career, Dr. McCoy thought he had it all. But when the woman he loved betrayed him, McCoy fled to Starfleet, hoping to lose his pain in the depths of space. Now, more than 40 years later, the USS Enterprise and her crew are ordered to transport a group of mediators to the planet San, a world where assassination is a long and time-honored tradition. Dr. McCoy is surprised to learn that his ex-wife, now remarried, is one of the mediators. Dun, dun, dun. But before McCoy can begin to face his feelings for his former wife, she and Captain Kirk are trapped by a band of deadly assassins. Suddenly, McCoy is in the center of an explosive civil war, where he is not only one of the powers, where he's the only one with the power to save the woman who once nearly destroyed him. McCoy must now overcome a centuries-long tradition of death and his own past with the woman he still loves. This is like a tawdry thing going on here. Or else lose her for a second time.
Next time on All My Children.
Yeah, that is like... So a bit of a disclaimer here first. I don't know how to exactly say this, but Craig read the book and I listened to the abridged audio version of it, the audiobook version of it. It was adapted by the author and it was read by James Doohan, who, by the way, does a really good Scotty on this. When he does this. It's
really
spot on.
I find that surprising. Wow.
It is very spot on. Although surprisingly, his Spock is not that good. You think he'd have that as well. He's good with McCoy because McCoy is just usually gruff. And Shatner's okay, but Spock, I mean, it's definitely no emotion. It's just a deadpan read of that character.
Yeah, as emotive as Spock is.
Well, he is. I mean, if you listen to him,
sometimes,
it's not all just monotone when he talks.
Right.
All right. So where do you want to begin with this one, Craig?
Well, I didn't write bullet points for every chapter like Chuck did, but I did write some interesting things I thought about the book. So as far and also some of the plot points and stuff. One of the things that they build was this takes place right after Undiscovered Country. This is the Enterprise is, I guess, going on doing what they're going to do, and they're heading back to Earth, and they get one last mission. And the only really connection I saw why they would even bring that up was that McCoy was having thoughts about retirement right at the beginning, and he was mulling it over, trying to figure it out, and he kept looking at his empty carrier box or whatever he's going to start packing up his stuff.
Like his Foot
to get
Locker.
it. The Foot Locker, yeah, kind of thing. So I did like that at the beginning, and I kept thinking, why did they draw that big connection? But I guess it's just to put it in the timeline, from where this book sits. But I did like that whole thing where he was kind of mulling things over, which leads well into the story. And the story has two different timelines, and has when McCoy was first in Starfleet, and then and that time when his first assignment.
Here's McCoy when he's youngster in Starfleet.
Let's write out of a Western. And then there's one with present day McCoy where he's going through the present day trauma, trying to deal with everything. So that's how the book's set up, which is kind of cool. So they meet with what was it, what's his wife's name? Thelia.
No, well, anyway. McCoy's wife's name is Jocelyn.
I'm sorry, that's his daughter's name.
No, daughter's name is Joanne. Joanna. I think it's Joanna.
Oh, okay, you're right. But I'm sorry, I'm getting out of line here. So McCoy gets in the past. He's stationed on San. I had trouble reading that name. It's SSAN, San, which they have an assassinating. How do you say that? A culture around assassination.
Yeah. Essentially, it is a very long-standing tradition. Going back centuries and centuries. Ritualistic and very efficient. There's a whole guild built around it, and it's just it's part of the culture. It's part of life there.
It sort of reminded me of a little bit of the culture around in John Wick with the hitmen, and there's a whole thing with the hotel, and it's just a whole subculture around that. So that's what I started thinking about when I saw the assassins. So the Enterprise is directed to go over there and kind of assist with the assassination. They had a couple of assassinations of some high-ranking officials.
Well, let's back up a bit.
Yep.
Assassinations. You would think, well, okay, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that the new head of the government wanted this to end. Just put an end to doing the assassinations.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it didn't sit well with the assassins. Funny thing.
Yeah.
So they are fighting back. They are, in the way they certainly know how. They are killing the leaders.
Yeah, and that's where the Civil War came about, because they had assassins that were recruited by the government when they outlawed assassins, and then there were people that were against the whole outlawing of the thing to begin with. So then that's where the Civil War conflict kind of came in.
Right. Okay. So they're brought in, and McCoy hasn't told Kirk, like, in all this time, that he actually had been there before.
Mm-hmm.
When he on his very first assignment, and during one of these bloody battles, and so that's kind of what allows us to jump back and forth. We jump back to that point when he was dealing with something that he did that, as a doctor, was a good thing, but it led to nothing but bad. Because he goes into this situation that he's told, okay, get down there. He's a doctor. He sees someone that's been injured, and he goes to give him some. I think he's trying to anesthetize him at first, and the person saying, no, don't do that. He says, I have to. I'm a doctor, and he goes ahead and does it, and it turns out that the person he's saving is one of the key assassins in the attack that had just taken place.
Mm-hmm.
So no one is happy with him on the Starfleet side, and his patient isn't happy with him because apparently what happens when the assassins do their first kill, which for this young assassins be the case, this blood fire, this chemical change takes place within the assassin, and he was, I guess, in the middle of that, and McCoy is like, "Up, I'm going to interrupt all that because I'm going to do this thing and save your life."
He starts hitting him in the chest. Stay still.
Why won't you live?
Am I hitting the right heart? Let me go over here. Yeah.
So that was McCoy's kind of, a bit of his backstory as to, what he knew about this place.
Yes. And then of course, like I said, present day, right? Am I going too fast?
No, wherever you're headed, we'll get there.
We'll get there. All right. So my notes are kind of all over the place. So please, I should have straightened these out a little bit more. So there was an assassination, and that's where Kirk, McCoy, and Spock show up, and they start to look at it and see what's going on. And so there was two officials, right? One was going to succeed the other, and the assassins took them out, and rather efficiently. One was with a bunch of hover cars, and they destroyed them. And then the other one, it was like the guy took all the precautions. They had all kinds of precautions to keep assassins from coming in to his chambers and in his presence, so they didn't kill the guy. And they even made him spit, which I was like, have we seen anybody spit in Star Trek before? I don't know. Maybe a first.
Maybe that Western episode. I don't know.
Yeah, they made him spit into like a sponge thing to analyze it, make sure he didn't have any poison on him. But apparently he did, and he got his job done, and then he jumped out the window, took off. And that's where Kirk, Spock, and everybody shows up at about that same time, and they start helping to look into it.
But there's someone with them on. There's someone with them on this mission that they bring with them on the Enterprise to San, and that's the Treadways. That's Clay Treadway. And
look at his picture there.
Yeah, or my close approximation of who he is. So that's old Clay Treadway, and we're gonna, at some point we see young Clay Treadway.
Right.
But he is now married to McCoy's ex-wife, Jocelyn. And that's a very awkward situation. McCoy tries to avoid them at all costs. He asks Kirk if he can, can I just stay in my cabin the entire time they're on the. He says, yeah, that's not a problem. And what happens? Of course, they run into each other.
Mm-hmm. They turn the corner. Oh, awkward.
And then one night,
Jocelyn
comes to McCoy's quarters, and she's feeling a bit
amorous.
It turns out that there had been some difficulty between Clay and Jocelyn, so they had asked for separate cabins when they got on board. McCoy didn't know that at the time, but Kirk tells him that later that that was the case. And so, but Kirk warns him that, well, this might just be a little bump in their marriage. You don't go reading too much into any of this stuff. And he goes, I hate to get hurt a second time, or, have to start all over again. Because we find out that these three people knew each other way back when. And Jocelyn was actually Clay's girl, and Clay was making eyes at some other girl at a dance. I think it was the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And so Jocelyn goes over and she just goes where the nerds are, where all the nerds are standing,
All the nerds.
and she picks one out, and it happens to be
Mhm.
Leonard McCoy.
Mhm.
And Clay gets obviously upset about it, and wallops Leonard,
That's right.
and I believe Leonard wallops back, and he goes home with Jocelyn, and then the picture is it's not fading anymore. And no, that's a different side altogether.
Yeah, and then they took the Enterprise and traveled back in time to try and change. McCoy interacted with his parents, and it was hilarity ensued.
Let's see, if you're wondering about what
Oh, wait. Here you go. Memory Alpha says that there have been 13 instances of people.
There you go. Things you didn't really want to know, but there you go.
Thanks, listener Diane and Memory Alpha. I didn't know we needed that stat.
So,
Okay.
and so then Leonard and Jocelyn get married. I have a picture here on the screen if you're watching the video of them, the lovely couple there. And all goes well until Leonard starts to go back to medical school, and Jocelyn is left at home with the child, and she starts, to feel really lonely. And look who comes along! It's Clay.
Mm-hmm.
And things go a bit wrong. And in true soap opera fashion, McCoy decides that's the day he's going to go home early and surprise with Jocelyn with some flowers. And he gets a surprise, all right.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, you kind of could see where McCoy is like, I don't know if I want to, go through all this again.
Right. Yeah. So, I was trying to, let's see. I am sorry. My notes are not organized right here.
That's
But
okay.
yeah. So,
well,
go ahead.
so we're talking about, since we're kind of in the past part of the story here. So we're talking about this young assassin that McCoy saves his life, and no one wants anything to do with this assassin. But McCoy says, I think it'd be a good idea if I try to get inside this young kid's head and, glean some information about, the assassins and maybe what their next target is and all this kind of stuff. And he's playing checkers where the assassin is playing, like 3-dimensional chess. Because the assassin sees through this right away and leads McCoy along, and they have conversations, and he kind of befriends him, and McCoy ends up telling him all about, what happened between him and Jocelyn, and, his feelings about this, that, and the other thing. And I don't, at least in the abridged version, I don't feel like the young assassin was really giving up much of anything about himself and all the stuff that was going on. So he was mostly listening, and
well, that's what they would do, right?
Yes, and so McCoy thinks he finally gets some information out of him about, so you're thinking that maybe this meeting is going to be a good, big, this market is a big thing. Yes, that could be the next target that they're planning. Or it could be this other thing over here, or this other thing over here, and lists off 5 things and says, who do you think you're kidding? I saw right through from the beginning.
Right.
McCoy was having a bad time of it all around, because he also had the chief medical officer that he was working under, who was Vincent Bendo.
Where'd that name sound familiar?
It really sounded super familiar. Was a piece of work in himself. He definitely had been in Starfleet a little too long and been through, a little too much, because he tries to kill the assassin in his bed in the ward, and McCoy has to pull him off, and the other new members, the other new doctors there, they have to all wrestle him to the ground because he's this big hulking guy. And it was just not a good scene on this planet. And it's another reason why McCoy really probably didn't want to go back there, because, just nothing good was. I mean, the people that were going to be going with him were there. It's just, I don't want to be with those people. I don't want to go to this planet. And he's trying to tell Starfleet about, oh, you think you're going to solve this problem with like diplomatic missions, and it's like that's not where their head is at. Assassins have a completely different headset, and he's the only one that really understood that, because he did have these conversations with this young assassin. And they've all regrouped under this new leader. So that's the young assassin, but what's his Shill and Drakus. And so they're one group of assassins all together in this new attacks against the government, trying to bring back the concept of assassination. And he's saying that they don't have an agenda like you think they have. They have one goal, and it's to bring back assassination. That's it. There's no compromise on what they want. That's what they want.
That's a terrible job. I mean, I was thinking about this too. Like, there's a whole culture around assassins and everything, and it's like, well, everybody would be killing each other, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they didn't, at least in the abridged version, they didn't get into all the machinations about how that works. I mean, are the assassins for hire? We know we know that some of them were for hire because they fought on the side of the government during the Civil War. But in the normal way of things, do you just go, I don't like my neighbor Phil, could you just assassinate him? Or is it something else? And there were a lot of them. So
no, they didn't go that deep into it. Now, I wanted to know too. That's why I was like, what? Did they just go, I don't like the way he does this, and we're going to kill off Joe. Whoa, not Joe.
Different Joe. A different Joe.
Yeah, Joe too.
Yeah.
But they didn't go into a lot of detail about that, and I was curious about that, because you just don't want a free for all,
But
anyway.
Despite all of this stuff, and McCoy having been on the ground in this place, Clay Treadway says, oh, no, there's much more going on here than you think, and we can handle this, and we're going to go in. And he has Scotty working on a way to identify where the headquarters, where like the hideout is of the main group of assassins.
Right.
And his plan is to just go in there and just, work it out right there in the middle of their camp.
Hey guys, let's talk.
So nobody thinks this is a good idea.
Right.
Jocelyn is going to go along because, well, he's my husband, and this is our mission to come here and do this thing. But they take so they go with Spock and Kirk and 2 red shirts down to the planet where they have to beam in.
What they call those test dummies for assassins.
Yeah, really. They have to beam in a little far away from the camp because there's I forget which mineral is interrupting the transporter beams. We always have those type of things. If if it's inconvenient to transport in close, there's something in the rocks or things, and minerals or magnetic field or something that prevents them from. So
the atmosphere is ionized.
Yeah. We got to reverse the polarity to get out of here. So they beam down a fair distance away from the camp.
Mm-hmm.
But as they start to walk towards it, suddenly one of the red shirts calls out, and they look over, and he's got like a spear through the middle of his chest or something. And
couldn't we get out of the transporter beam for 5 minutes?
I know but you should have known when you put on the shirt today. It's not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
And things that Spock is overpowered, but Kirk managed to get off a call for Scotty to beam them up, but nothing happens right away because, again, you got the minerals and the things and trying to work out how all the stuff works. They do beam up Spock, who is I don't think Spock has been injured, just kind of knocked aside. Clay also was slightly injured and he's beamed out, but that leaves Jocelyn and Kirk on the planet. And Kirk goes, "Oh, it's just we'll be next. We'll be next. We just gotta avoid them for a couple of seconds here, and seconds lead to more seconds and more seconds and more seconds, and then they're captured."
Right. I can see Kirk doing this now. Now would be a good time.
This is how I define unwarranted. But so they are prisoners in the caves where the assassins have their hideout. And Jocelyn lays an awful lot on Kirk, I think, in this, because she decides now is going to be the good time where she wants to, tell the entire story about what happened between her and Leonard and all this stuff. And he's like saying, "Okay, sure. Happy to listen to you about how you, betrayed
TMI.
betrayed one of my best friends and put him through, yeah, let's talk about that, shall we?" So she recounts the entire story that we've talked about. And Kirk has really what is he going to say? He doesn't,
Yeah.
So I don't know.
He's just going,
Yeah.
And
And then okay. You mind if I fall asleep over here while you finish up? It's,
I'm not sleeping. I just checking my eyes for eyelids.
But they do beam back down to mount a rescue mission, and they make their way into the caves, which is good. They overpower some of the assassins. How they do that, I'm really not sure.
And neck pinch. Kirk knows how to do the neck pinch.
Yeah, but you gotta sneak. Well, I mean, from outside, when Clay and Spock come back down, it's like they get into the caves. It's like really before these deadly ninjas suddenly, these assassins. They
took him by surprise.
I just like, I mean, what is?
Yeah,
didn't understand that part at all. Yeah, and Kirk and Jocelyn kind of do the same thing, and kind of they're making their way out, and they run into each other. Hey, look, we're trying to rescue you. Hey, but we're already rescuing ourselves, so we got to get out of here. Blah 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 blah. And they don't quite make it to the exit before they're stopped by the assassins. And then comes the big reveal. What is the big reveal, Craig, of this story?
McCoy is the number one assassin of the whole thing.
No, that's not the reveal is that young assassin, nameless, as far as I could tell, nameless assassin at the beginning, is all grown up the head of the assassins.
That's right.
So he is standing there. There's a little it's a ravine between them and the assassins at this point in the caves. It's not clear to me how deep it is. I'm guessing, like, let's say 20 feet deep chasm between them. And so they all have their weapons out, and I think it's either McCoy or Kirk goes, "Okay, no one's doing anything right now." And usually these assassins say they don't like to kill off-worlders as long as no one, and then Clay starts shooting his phaser.
Okay, that's good to know.
I get my shot in first.
Thanks for telling us.
And so that does not go well. One of the assassins is knocked to the ground. Then, because I'm trying to remember the specific sequence here. I think it's Andrakis who is hit by some of the phaser fire, and he starts to fall into the ravine, and he has a weapon. It's a knife, I believe, and he throws the knife, and he's aiming for. Must be aiming for McCoy. Yes, aiming for McCoy.
Yes.
And Jocelyn steps in between them and takes the knife, and she falls into the ravine. So then apparently time stops in one of those West Side Story moments. It seems because the McCoy jumps into the ravine and nothing else is going on up above. Well, he's down in the ravine, and Jocelyn is dying, and she's saying, "Oh, would you dance with me?" and all this kind of stuff. And
Well, let me get this knife out of the way.
yeah, well, he doesn't take the knife out. He says, "Oh, she'll bleed to death faster that way if I do
Right.
that. So I'm not going to do that." And she dies.
Mhm.
And then he realizes that Androcus, that young, now old assassin, is in the pit with him. The person who threw the knife that killed, the love of his life. And he goes over, and Androcus still wants to kill him. And McCoy is, fighting off the urge to not to try to save him, but he still feels compelled to save him because he's a doctor and that's what he does.
That's right. Yeah.
But Androcus dies anyway because the young startup punk assassin in the group kills him.
Mhm. There's a lot of backstabbing going on here.
And front stabbing and side stabbing and all sorts of stabbing.
Yeah, diagonal.
Yeah. So, and I think it's I don't know whether Androcus says it, but McCoy is certainly thinking, like, if he had not saved that young assassin that no one thought it was a good idea for him to, why did you do that?
Mhm.
None of this would have happened.
That's right.
And he did it because he's a doctor and he saves lives, and that's what he does.
Yeah, that's his thing. I mean, because he's poor McCoy. He's got like a lot of emotional stuff going on here. He's got the saving of the guy who ended up killing his wife or his ex-wife, and his whole confliction between Starfleet and his relationship with his wife. That's why when he divorced and all that stuff. He's got a lot going on.
Right. So in the audiobook, they barely mention I think it's I think it's Joanna. It's Joanna, right? I'm not Joanna, it's Joanna. Who, if you listen to various discussions about season 4 of the original series, it was Dee who said that there were some plans to have Joanna actually show up in one of the episodes. So that character has been in the mythology of Trek's from the beginning. And I was hoping we'd at least know more about her as well, but at least in the abridged version, she's mentioned by name twice, and I think that's about it.
Mhm.
Is there anything more said about her, like what she's doing or anything in
No,
the book?
no, it's kind of jives with what you just said.
So I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity there.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of missed opportunities as we talked about you know, fleshing out the assassins a little bit more. So I was curious to know more about what their motives were. And maybe they were playing, I mean, they intentionally left some of that out so you would wonder. I don't know. But yeah.
Right, because the situation is not resolved at the end of the story,
Mm-mm. Nope.
especially when you have now the person in charge of the assassins is more ruthless or potentially more ruthless than the person that just got killed, because he at least said, we don't kill off-worlders and blah, 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 blah. And he was trying to teach the code of the assassins, make of that what you will, but they had a certain
Mhm.
code about things they wouldn't do and things they would
Mhm.
do. And the young assassin who's now in charge is like, whatever. We're just gonna, kill until we get our way.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that gets chalked up as well. That's a miserable result out of what McCoy did.
Yes. There's a lot of he had a difficult life, it sounds like, to be honest with you. And it shows. Even remember he was kind of downtrodden in this 2009 Star Trek when they met a little bit, when he was
Right.
talking about
Because
his divorce and all that.
because he's thinking like, she took everything, from me. And
Mhm.
emotionally, I feel like Jocelyn did do that to McCoy. I mean, his refuge was to go into space, to go as far away from Earth as possible and as far away from all this as possible.
Yeah, which it keeps bringing me back in. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's that. What's interesting is I pulled up Memory Alpha on Dr. McCoy. Spouse, one says unknown, divorced. Then there's Natira, says wife,
Right. Who's
separated.
married on the asteroid.
Yeah, and then that's it. Doesn't say Jocelyn anywhere.
Right, but it does list his daughter, right? Or does it?
Yes, yeah, Joanna.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know whether or not.
Hey, his daughter. I remember the last book I read. Joanna was in it.
Okay.
She was on the cover, but she was in the story very much. That was the weird thing. I was like, why'd you feature her there? And then you get in the book, it's like, she was a small part in the whole thing.
So we've got, got another run at it. If we have McCoy suddenly show up on Strange New Worlds, okay, are we gonna see Joanna this time? Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, so we have to rate this book, I guess, or you have to rate this book. I mean, I was reading along, but really, your thoughts about the book in total. The different eras that it covers, bouncing back and forth between young McCoy on his first assignment, even younger McCoy when he first meets Jocelyn, his wife, up till post Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, when he's thinking about retirement. It's kind of running the gambit of his life. And then you have this other story laid on top of it.
Yeah.
So what was your overall impression of the book?
Excuse me. I enjoyed it a lot. I think for the most part, you don't see now I get a cough. Excuse me. Is that even though we see McCoy a lot in the TOS era, excuse me, we see him a lot. He's one of those characters you don't know a whole lot about, except for some of the stuff we've seen on screen. So I thought it was pretty good to read about that and his first station at Sasan.
Yes, Sasan. Yes.
Sasan.
Sanio. It's a Phil Collins planet.
Sasan. Yes, right. So overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's a good read for anybody that's a Trek fan that wants to see a McCoy Forward story and learn more about him. And the assassin thing was interesting. I think they could have fleshed it out a little bit more. But I did like the story that was on top of it. So overall, I would recommend this book. I mean, I give it. Let's see. I give it 8 on the assassin scale.
Oh my goodness! And we have a question here. This is a good question. So, in this timeline, is Nancy before or after Jocelyn? I'm guessing before. I'm guessing that, although they were pretty young. I mean, I remember what dance they were at when they had this altercation between Clay and Leonard. Was it I can't remember whether it was just a town dance or what. I don't think it was a high school dance. I think that's too much for that. But it was
a barn dance kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I'm guessing Nancy was before because Leonard waxes poetic about Nancy and kind of sees her through these rose-colored glasses, but they make it pretty evident in the book that Jocelyn was the love of his life. To drive the point home even more, that she's now dead, and he kind of sort of killed her in a way. So yeah, I would say before. That's my guess anyway.
Yeah, I think so as well.
All right. Well, very interesting. The next episode we're going to be.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Oh,
You do? What do you think?
well, okay. So again, I didn't read the entire book, so it's kind of hard for me to judge the whole thing. As I said, the author did write this. I think it's 3.5 hours, which is a lot shorter than if you get an unabridged version of something. I found the story that McCoy's backstory much more interesting than the assassin story, because the assassin story seemed very simplistic. Besides, we didn't understand how the whole thing worked. They almost seem one-dimensional. We do this, and that's all we do.
Yeah.
And so you didn't get a nuance with that. And we really didn't get any kind of feeling at all for the government and this whole concept of trying to end that entire structure
That's
of
true. Yep.
assassination. We get told it in a briefing, but we don't really get a great sense of it. Again, I always say, if the audio adaptation follows closely enough to the book in terms of the weight of different things and details that are left in and left out. So I was much more invested in McCoy, the fellow trainees that he was working with, how they dealt with Bando, how he dealt with his first assignment, basically thrown into the middle of a war as your first assignment. And basically, alternating between saving lives and just kind of standing there shaking your head because it's pretty hopeless and no, don't bother with this one. They're already gone type of thing. And Bando kind of does call out some traits of McCoy that I was worried that, sorry, now I'm doing that. I was worried that we were going to say that he was the impetus for McCoy having those traits, but it's pretty clear that no, he's kind of shining a light on some of the things that McCoy does, but McCoy was doing those things already.
Right.
And because Bando was very, very gruff, and yeah, McCoy has a gruff side, but he's not that same character. He's not over the top. This is because Bando got to the point where he was really enjoying what was going on. And it's like, okay, that's, way over the line. And so they were not really alike. But I did like the fact that we got a chance to go through all that and learn stuff about McCoy.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the present day story was a lot less interesting than the past story. Basically is what you just said. So
see, it's all fan service. There we go.
So you give it an assassin scale.
All right, assassin scale. I'm going to give it since half of the story I'm going to give it a 6.5. 6.5 assassins. I felt like the assassin story had to be there for the stuff to go on. And you do have a lot of, oh, what a coincidence. This assassin is the same one I, saved. Oh, what a coincidence. The mediators are my ex-wife and, my ex-friend and all this kind of stuff. But still, I would definitely give it a 6.5.
Okay. So you enjoyed it overall?
I did. And it was fun to have Jimmy Doohan read it.
Yeah.
Again, spot on. I cannot overemphasize what a good Scotty he does. It's just really amazing.
He should have played him.
Should have. Missed opportunity there. So next time around, we will be talking about not another book. We'll be talking about the Trek cruise that Craig and Chuck just came back from. And then the episode after that, barring any bizarre sudden announcement of the new season of Strange New Worlds, we'll be doing my book, which is Probe, which is another Star Trek, the original series book. This one is post Star Trek 4, though. So Probe refers to that probe that came to Earth. And hey, it just kind of goes away. Is that going to come back? Is anybody worried about that? What's the deal with that? And those are the questions that we start to deal
Yeah.
with in this story.
You know,
So
I've seen this book cover a million times, but I've never read it. So I may have to. I need to read it as well. So
well, your assignment is you've got to at least check out the audiobook of that. Again, read by James Doohan, before we talk about Probe. But if you can,
are you doing the audiobook?
no, I'm doing the book, but I mean,
Mhm.
for you, because, we talked about having everybody kind of be familiar with the book when we have the discussion about it. So, if you can't pick up a copy at your local library, even if you drop LeVar Burton's name, then the audiobook is available. Now, I don't know if there's an unabridged version of it as well. I know that the one that Jimmy does is abridged, but
Okay.
it seems like it was good enough for me to be like just being able to follow along and add to the story, the things you were trying to talk about, because all those points were at least touched on in the abridged version. So that was good.
Yeah. All right. I got a Audible credit burning a hole in my pocket. So
There you go.
yeah.
And the same goes for you listeners out there. If you want to ride along with us, then check out Probe, Star Trek Probe. Be careful how you ask for that or search for it. I'm sure that there's some things you don't want to when you do that. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's it's time to refill the dilithium chamber and try to warp on out of here. So I'm going to ask who speaks for you guys, and I'm going to mock surprise when you say it's you, Craig.
I'll let Chuck do it. No, so you can find Chuck and I on the Technorama podcast over at chuckchat.com. Just search for Technorama podcast in Google, and you should find us. We're on all over the place. So there you go.
Excellent. And you can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4. I have a new episode that's already out with the patrons, and probably sometime this weekend that will be released to everyone else. So you get a chance to enjoy that. Another episode's coming up after that about Detective Hart, and we are close to having the big story coming out, but still work to do on that yet. And I haven't given Craig his part yet, so much recording left to be done on that one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we don't have any music to be in the background here, so if you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. That's important because sometimes you get an announcement, sometimes you don't, but if you're subscribed, you always know what's happening. We love to hear from you. Follow us on X at The Topic is Trek, on Blue Sky at The Topic is Trek. Visit our Facebook page or call us at 816-TREKKER. That's 816-873-5537. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't put on the red
shirt.
People in that story really need to know that. They didn't understand it.
And then they went in the den of assassins. Stupid.
This just proves the point, doesn't it? It totally proves the point.
Yeah.
All right. We are done with recording, which is good because the voice, I've just cranked up the humidifier in here, but a little too late for it to do much to help me out.
It went up 1%.
Yeah.
It went up 1%.
Yeah, really. Thank you for everybody that was here in the live chat for commenting. We had in here Crazy Joe, we had listener Diane, and Gary was in here. I'm not sure if Gary's still in here or not, but always appreciate you guys being here to help us out with stuff. When we forget the names of things and I say, oh, somebody at home is probably, yelling at their listening device. Well, if you're here in the chat, you can type it in and tell us, hey, this is the name of that thing. This is where that actor was last seen, type of thing. And we appreciate that because there's 60 years of Trek now. You can't keep that all in your head, but try as we might, we do try. It's impossible. So you are the collective out there that can help Borgify the results. I don't know where that metaphor was going, but I appreciate you being here.
Well, I was assimilated on the ship.
See? So Next episode's going to be the green light's got to be going. And you just got to be very careful about
I
that.
have to wear a green shirt.
We're going to end the
Right.
recording now. Thank you again for watching us.
Bye, everybody.
Live long and prosper.